What do you do when God gives you a dream and then lets your life fall apart? What do you do when the promise is clear, but the path is a pit? When you obey, and instead of promotion you get betrayal? When you run from sin and end up in prison? When you ask to be remembered, and you are forgotten for years? Joseph was 17 when God showed him his future. He was 30 when it finally began. In between were 13 years of silence, slavery, false accusation, and a prison cell that echoed with unanswered prayers. This is not just the story of a dreamer. This is the story of a man God refused to forget. Joseph was 17 years old when the dreams began to speak, louder than his wisdom. He was the favored son of his father Jacob, wrapped in a manna-colored coat that announced his position without a single word. So he dreamed that his brother's bundles of grain bowed down to his bundle, and he told them. He dreamed again that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him, and he told them that too. His brothers' hearts hardened with jealousy, though his father kept the matter in mind. One day Jacob sent him to check on his brothers in the fields. Joseph left, expecting to return by evening. He never did. His brothers saw him from a distance and said, "Here comes the dreamer." They stripped him of his coat and threw him into a dry pit. As he pleaded from the darkness, they sat down to eat. When a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passed by on the way to Egypt, Judas suggested they sell him instead of killing him. For 20 pieces of silver, they handed their brother over. They dipped his coat in goat and goat's blood and sent it to their father. Jacob believed Joseph was dead and mourned deeply. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. Yet the Lord was with Joseph. In Potiphar's house, Joseph worked faithfully. Though a slave, he carried himself with diligence and integrity. Everything he touched prospered, and Potiphar entrusted him with his entire household. An end. Joseph grew into a strong and capable young man, handsome in form and appearance. Potiphar's wife noticed him and urged him day after day to lie with her. Joseph refused, saying, "How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" One day she seized him by his garment. Joseph fled, leaving the garment in her hand. In anger, she accused him falsely. Potiphar believed her and cast Joseph into prison. The reward for righteousness seemed to be chains. Yet the Lord was with Joseph, granting him favor in the sight of the prison keeper. Soon Joseph was placed in charge of the other prisoners and the affairs of the prison. Still, he remained confined, forgotten by the world. Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were imprisoned there, and both dreamed troubling dreams in one night. Joseph noticed their distress and said, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." He interpreted the cupbearer's dream as restoration in 3 days, and the baker's as a continued 3 days. This I see. It happened exactly as Joseph said. Before the cupbearer left, Joseph asked him quietly, "Remember me when it is well with you." But the cupbearer forgot him. 2 full years passed. The silence stretched long and heavy, day after day in the same cell, with no change and no rescue in sight. Yet God had not forgotten. Pharaoh dreamed of 7 healthy cows devoured by 7 gaunt cows, and 7 full ears of grain swallowed by 7 thin ears. None of Egypt's wise men could interpret the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Pharaoh sent for him at once. Joseph was brought from the prison, shaved, changed his clothes, and stood before Pharaoh. When Pharaoh said he had heard Joseph could interpret dreams, Joseph replied, "It is not in me." God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. He explained that 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of severe famine. He advised Pharaoh to store grain during the years of plenty. Pharaoh recognized the Spirit of God in Joseph and appointed him ruler over Egypt, second only to the throne. In one day, Joseph rose from prisoner to governor. He was 30 years old. The Lord was with Joseph. The 7 years of abundance came, and Joseph stored grain in great quantities. Then the famine struck, spreading across lands and nations. People from everywhere came to Egypt to buy grain. Among them were Joseph's brothers, sent by their father from Canaan. They bowed before Joseph, not recognizing him. He recognized them immediately. The dream of his youth stood fulfilled before his eyes. He tested them, accusing them of being spies, and demanding that they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, bundled in. He kept Simeon and sent the others home with grain, secretly returning their silver in their sacks. When the famine worsened, they returned with Benjamin. At the sight of his full brother, Joseph withdrew and wept in private. He longed to know if their hearts had changed. He devised one final test, placing his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. When it was discovered, the brothers tore their clothes in despair and returned to Joseph. Judah stepped forward and pleaded to take Benjamin's place, offering himself as a slave rather than see their father die of grief. In that moment, Joseph saw repentance and transformation. He could no longer restrain himself. He dismissed the Egyptians and wept aloud. Then he said in Hebrew, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers stood speechless in fear. Joseph drew them near and said, "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. It was not you who sent me here, but God." He saw the pit, the slavery, and the prison through the lens of divine purpose. What they meant for evil, God had meant for good. When Jacob heard that Joseph was alive and ruler over Egypt, his heart was numb at first. But when he saw the wagon sent to carry him, his spirit revived. He journeyed to Egypt, and Joseph ran to meet him, falling on his neck and weeping for a long time. The years of sorrow dissolved in that embrace. The family settled in Egypt, sustained through the famine by the very brother they had betrayed. Joseph lived long enough to see God's faithfulness woven through every chapter of his life. The Lord had been with him in the pit, in the house of slavery, in the prison, and in the palace. His suffering was not wasted. His silence was not abandonment. His waiting was not in vain. And in the end, he said to his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So, if this story touched your heart, it reminded you that God is still working, even in the silent years, then dawn. Stop here. There are more powerful Bible stories waiting for you on this channel. Stories of faith in the fire, courage in the storm, and hope in the darkest nights. Each one is created to strengthen your spirit and remind you that God never forgets his own. Oh, take a moment right now to subscribe to the channel. Click the like button so more people can discover this message. Share this story with someone who may be walking through their own silent season. And most importantly, turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next life-changing story. Before you go, tell me in the comments, what part of Joseph's journey spoke to you the most? Our story isn't over. And I'll see you in the next one.